Rock 100.5 KATT. I am Cameron Buchholtz here with John from Baroness. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I'm just we're just getting into the venue here in Lawrence, Kansas, at the Bottleneck. So our day's about to start here shortly. So yeah, things are going pretty well.
Nice, man. Yeah, you guys are going to be here in Oklahoma City Saturday night at the Diamond Ballroom, and I
That's
think it's
right.
just gonna be a big old rock show, right?
One can only hope. Yeah.
Now, have you guys played the Diamond Ballroom before? I imagine in your 20 plus year history you have, but I couldn't think of a time right off the top of my
I
head.
don't. I what is the I'm not sure. We
Yeah,
there's a very very good chance on knowing how many venues there are in the city that we have played it. But I think the past two times we played somewhere slightly outside town. I believe we played the ballroom two or three times over the past two
sure.
decades.
It would make sense. I know the last time you played was kind of your more uh intimate tour that you played at
That's correct.
89th. Which
Yeah.
so what was kind of the thinking of doing that coming out of COVID? Just made sense to kind of scale things down, or
Yeah, we wanted to try something a little different. So we scaled down the club to I think we did two of those two legs of that tour, and we did quite a few shows. And I think the maximum capacity was normally about 250 or 300 people. So
Mhm.
for a band our size, otherwise a very intimate show, and in order to what the idea for the show was that we would be playing potentially any song that we'd ever recorded. So we learned, nearly 100 songs, or we relearned or got competent with about 100 songs, 80, 90 songs, something like that. And then went out and we were doing these like 3 hour sets that were part ticket buyer generated, like top 10 songs by city. Then we would do, 30, 40 minute acoustic set, and we would jam for a little bit. And then we just round out the evening playing whatever songs we wanted, such that by the end of every night of that tour, we played roughly 5 or 6 songs off each of our records.
Gotcha. And then how did it kind of feel coming back to a more normal show? You're like, oh, I get to make the set list tonight, or we're playing the ones
Yeah,
that,
no, I mean, it wasn't. It felt great. I
yeah.
think what's really great for us is to have some variety in what we do. Whether
Mhm.
it's playing festivals during the summer, or doing proper venue runs during the amenable months, and then sometimes scaling down and doing specific sort of like focus tours with an idea or a concept around them. Just as long as it's not the same workplace every day for me, I'm very satisfied with it. It's really fun to see to play different size stages and different types of markets, and it's just to try to understand how the size of a show or the venue of a show really dictates some of the specifics with regards to the set list or how we'll play the songs. We sometimes play the audience a little bit more than we play the songs. If the audience wants to hear the set fast, we'll play it sort of speedy. Or if they want sometimes a little more emotive and like mid paced or slow or gentle, we can do that as well. So it's really interesting. It's good for us to keep things changing all the time. Mostly because it keeps it interesting for us as musicians, but also because it allows us the opportunity to learn how to perform these songs in different scenarios, in different forms.
And now, are you someone that like pays attention to like the numbers in terms of like, oh, this song gets streamed a lot in this city, way more so than other cities, or things like that when you're making a set list?
Only for tours like that where I want to make sure that that there has been some attention, some sort of attention paid to what the audience wants to hear. But 99% of the time, no, not at all. 99% of the time, what we're trying to do is make sure that each tour has its own sort of feel or flair to it. What I will do more than look at numbers, because I think numbers are sort of inflated and they can be a little bit misleading, and it's frankly, like, we're not in the business of playing exactly what our audience wants to hear. Rather, we're in the business of writing music and doing things that we want to hear, with the idea in mind that the transitive property will kick in, and that what we are most interested in is what, in fact, our audience will appreciate the most. but also more so than that because we tour year round and we tour a
Mm-hmm.
lot. It's more important to me that to look at the last set list that we played in Oklahoma City
Mm-hmm.
or Arkansas or wherever, just to make sure that if because our fans will come and see us multiple times, so I don't want to play the same set that we played last time, and give our audience the false impression that we only stick to one script. We change the set list up every night.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now you're kind of out promoting the new record that came out last year, Stone, which
Right.
I suppose is your COVID record. Every band's got to have one, it seems, and that this one's yours.
I think due to the restrictions of time in which it was created, yes, I guess you could
Mhm.
consider it that. We don't
Yeah.
really we try not to think of it in that way because I find that kind of thinking takes away from the record more than paying attention to it. In other words, I believe within a certain level of tolerance, we would have made this record COVID or no COVID. It's just that COVID allowed us the opportunity to make the record entirely ourselves, where this may not have been the record that we self-produced, self-wrote, self-engineered, self-recorded. I think because of COVID, it gave us like a little kick in the pants to do that all ourselves. So I think in a way that the nature of the fact that COVID was in effect when we were making this record gave us or sort of nudged us a little bit further down the road, towards self independence and sort of DIY ethics that we applied to this record in making it ourselves. So yeah, I think in that way it's a COVID record, but not in
Or not in
maybe
theme or anything like that. Yeah.
not in theme or in terms of
Yeah.
subject matter. That's right. Yeah.
Sure. But no, it is a bit more, maybe a leaner record, a little more stripped down, certainly than the previous one. How is that affecting the live show? Because I imagine maybe these new songs might be, you could be a little more loose with them, maybe a little more fun to play live, right?
Yeah, I think what we try to do what we try to do from record to record is change something very fundamental about the way it's recorded or the production style or something. So being that Golden Gray was about excess and was about layers and embellishments and just like a certain kind of density, we tried with Stone to make sure that we weren't paying attention, we weren't putting our focus on layers and that kind of like depth by density sort of thing. We were more interested in finding the depth of this record through scarcity, I guess you could say. So yeah, there is a little bit of a and the way we wrote it that way. We wrote it a little bit more from like an insistent sort of all day rehearsal jam sensibility, where by the time we felt like we had mostly like rounded off the edges and had a structure for song impact, we recorded right then, not after hours and hours of refinements and elaboration. We really tried to capture the energy of immediacy and spontaneity as much as we could in a self-recorded environment. So yeah, this record it should sound a little looser and it should sound a little bit more free. As it pertains to the live show, though, I think we found a certain sort of flexibility with all of our songs where they become better songs to us the more freedom we have within the context of each song live to change it night by night, to find something new in it every night. So the last thing that we want to be as a band who has to stick to a very particular script each night that's either that kind of has a binary wrongness or rightness to it. I prefer to think that our songs have a little bit more fluidity and flexibility, whereby we can play them slower or faster, louder or softer, gentler or harsher, and the song still holds up. It just more we get to express something specific and individual each night of the week on stage, rather than try to mimic or reproduce the feeling that you get specifically when you listen to the record. I think that for bands like us, where there is a little bit of fluidity and freedom within the music, I think it's obligatory for us to try to create a new or different sort of experience with the songs live than maybe you've gotten on the record, to give to add a little bit of depth or width to the song. So yeah, like especially with these songs from Stone, they were pretty. It was pretty easy to integrate them into our live set, and now it's kind of fun to see them grow up on stage and
Yeah.
become new things.
Gotcha, man. Well,
Yeah,
I've heard you talk a lot about kind of your various influences and stuff. That's a easy interview question, but one that stuck out to
sure.
me when I've heard you describe it is you called out the Flaming Lips, which
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
maybe on its face seems a little strange for your bands, but then when you think about it, it's like no, that actually makes sense. And they're probably the biggest band that has come out of Oklahoma City if you take away some country
Sure.
singers. So I'll maybe we can get Wayne to come out to the show Saturday night.
Oh, I would love that. I would love. We've operated so for such a long time, sort of in a like we're very we've become very lips adjacent over the years due to the fact that we worked so frequently with their producer Dave Fridman.
Hmm.
And I think that in Dave, I think Dave was the first person to sort of pointed out in some ways, not certainly not in all, but in many ways there are some uh, parts of our musical DNA that we share in common, like maybe a sort of open mindedness or sort of like creative kinship with them. But I've always looked up to them as one of the prime exemplars in American music of all time, with regards to individuality and, in terms of, musical world building and creating those layers I tend to be interested in musically. But mostly in this sort of free spirited attitude where the premium of your band is part and parcel with how individual you are and how unique you are and how you know what's unique to Baroness is truly unique to Baroness. What's unique to the Lips is truly unique to the Lips, and that gives them and that gives us the freedom to move forward with musically with our band without fear of repercussions. Where just as an example, I think if you look at some of the sort of heavier, more like commercially viable styles of music, they seem to come with this um, presumption of like a halftime breakdown, for instance. Like in the middle of this savage song, things are going to slow down to half pace, and that's when everybody's going to stalk around the pit like a gorilla. And like that's fine. Like I appreciate that that there are some scenes of music that have a kind of orthodoxy to them, but I'm not interested in it. Like for Baroness, it would really be like a death knell if we all of a sudden felt like we had to write a song that had a harmonized lead or had some kind of breakdown or some sort of musical convention that all of a sudden we feel trapped by. And I think that more than almost anything else is something that I find refreshing and exhilarating about listening to Flaming Lips is it never sounds like they're quite repeating themselves, while at the same time they have a sonic hallmark that is familiar and recognizable clearly as the Flaming Lips sound. But that every time they put a record out, I'm genuinely surprised by some musical discovery that they've made, and then that's exhilarating and inspiring to me because I don't want to, I certainly don't want us to lose our capacity for adventure and discovery within our music, in favor of commerciability or playability or just accessibility to the listener. I don't think that that's important. I don't think the listener deserves easy access to music. I think that that's a fallacy that's been created by more recent forms of pop music. I think that if you look at what I consider, at least in my life, a high point of music was the '90s, with what was happening with alternative rock. I think the premium was always on how individual are you. Like Alice in Chains was big because they sounded like Alice in Chains and no one else did.
Hmm.
Same for the Chili Peppers, same for Nirvana, same for Pearl Jam. I think that when homogeny becomes part of the music scene or the music business, then we all have to be very careful. We have to be very careful that we don't slip into that homogeny because I think it kills your music. I think it turns you into a boring product rather than an exciting artist that you truly are inside. So yeah, and again, swinging back to the Lips, I think that they've like really put their flag in the ground and said that's what we're going to do for our career. And when I was a very young musician, that aspect of them very specifically implanted on me, and I refuse to let go of what I think that is with Baroness. That thing that allows us to continually look outwards for new sounds to incorporate and absorb into our sound. Because I don't want to ever think that we are about one sound and one thing that we do and one way of going about it.
Gotcha, man. Well, awesome, dude. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of
And
course.
yeah, Saturday night, Diamond Ballroom. People can get their tickets at diamondballroom.com. And we'll just see you on Saturday, man.
Hell yeah.